This is brought to you by Cloud with Shad. Welcome to this beginner-friendly explainer. If you're completely new to cloud computing and looking to break into tech, well, you're in the exact right place. Today, we're going to decode AWS storage services, making these concepts practical, clear, and super easy to remember. Imagine you run a growing business in Accra. As your business expands, so does the complexity of your data. Think about it. Some of your records are photos and videos of your products. Some files need to be shared by many workers at the exact same time. Other data just belongs to one specific computer. And then you have those old tax records that just must be archived away for years. AWS doesn't just give you one giant bucket for all of this. They have different storage services specifically designed for entirely different storage needs. So here's our course map for today's lesson. We'll be hitting 5 key areas: main AWS storage types, a deep dive into Amazon S3, block and file storage, hybrid and physical migration, and finally optimizing costs, along with a quick exam summary. All right, let's jump right into section 1, main AWS storage types, covering object, block, and file. So there are 3 foundational storage types we need to know, and honestly, the best way to understand them is through everyday analogies. First up is object storage, which is Amazon S3. Think of this like a massive, endless filing cabinet in the cloud where you just toss in files, photos, videos, and backups. Next is block storage, like EBS and Instant Store. This is literally like a physical hard drive plugged into one single virtual server, perfect for operating systems. And lastly, file storage, like EFS and FSX. This is exactly like a shared office network drive that multiple workers can access all at once. Now, to easily remember these for your exam, just think of the CAB mnemonic. C is for content, which is your S3 object storage. A is for attached, representing EBS block storage attached to a single server. And B is for broadcast, because EFS file storage broadcasts data to be shared across many servers. Content, attached, broadcast. CAB. Simple, right? Moving right along to section 2, our Amazon S3 deep dive, also known as the Simple Storage Service. Amazon S3 is built on a few really core concepts. First off, we have buckets. Think of a bucket as the main container for your files. And here's a key detail. Every bucket name has to be globally unique across all of AWS. Inside those buckets, you drop your objects, which is just AWS speak for your files. An object can be anything from a tiny text document all the way up to a massive 5 terabyte video file. Each object gets a key, which is just its unique identifier. And S3 comes packed with amazing built-in features, like static website hosting, versioning so you don't accidentally overwrite stuff, automatic replication, and secure encryption. But the absolute coolest part? S3 is incredibly reliable. It offers what we call 11 nines of durability. Look at that statistic on screen. That is 99.999999999%. Basically, if you store 10 million objects in S3, you might expect to lose one single object once every 10,000 years. For your business, that literally means your data is practically never lost. Now let's talk about S3 storage classes, because you really don't want to pay top dollar to store old text records you never actually look at. Step 1 is S3 Standard, for data you access all the time. Step 2 is Intelligent Tiering. This is a brilliant feature for when you just don't know your access patterns. Step 3 covers the infrequent access classes, like Standard IA and One Zone IA, for data you don't touch often but need instantly when you do. And finally, Step 4 is the Glacier family, going all the way down to Glacier Deep Archive. This is the absolute cheapest long-term storage option, but just remember, it can take about 12 to 48 hours to get your files back. And here's a massive exam tip for you. You should always use S3 lifecycle policies. These are basically rules you create that automatically move your data to those cheaper storage classes over time. So a file could sit in standard for 30 days, then just automatically drop to infrequent access, and eventually move into Glacier Deep Archive after a year. It saves your business money completely on autopilot. All right, section 3, block and file storage. Let's take a look at EBS, EFS, and FSX. So let's contrast our main options here. EBS is persistent block storage tied to exactly one virtual EC2 server in a single availability zone. EFS, on the flip side, is file storage. It acts as a shared network drive for Linux servers, meaning thousands of servers can access it at the same time across multiple availability zones. Then we have the Instant Store, which is another type of block storage, but the major catch here is that it's strictly temporary. Please pay super close attention to this critical exam tip about EBS. When you launch a virtual server, it needs a boot volume to start the operating system, right? Well, only solid-state drive, or SSD, EBS volumes can be used as boot volumes. You cannot use the cheaper hard disk drives for booting. Also, keep in mind that if you ever want to back up an EBS volume, you create a snapshot, and AWS conveniently stores that snapshot safely over an S3. Now, I need to give you a serious warning about the Instant Store. It's kind of like a temporary table at a cafe. The data is ephemeral, which is just a fancy way of saying any data stored there is completely wiped out if the virtual instance stops, terminates, or if the physical hardware fails. So only use it for temporary scratch data. Never, ever put permanent data there. So you might be wondering, what about Windows? Because EFS is strictly for Linux. Well, if your business has branch offices using Windows, you're going to need Amazon FSx for Windows File Server. That natively supports Windows File Shares, SMB, and Active Directory. On the other hand, if you see Amazon FSx for Lustre pop up on the exam, remember that that one is purpose-built for high-performance computing, machine learning, and crunching massive data sets. Moving on to Section 4, Hybrid and Physical Migration, covering Storage Gateway and the Snow family. Okay, what if your business still has physical servers humming away in a local office, but you want to start connecting to the AWS cloud? That is exactly where AWS Storage Gateway comes in. It acts as a bridge. For the exam, anytime you see keywords like hybrid storage, connecting on-premises to AWS, or tape replacement, your answer is almost certainly going to be Storage Gateway. But what if you have so much data that uploading it over your internet connection would literally take months? When you need massive physical data migration, AWS offers the Snow family. It scales up from Step 1, the AWS Snow Cone, which is super small and portable, to Step 2, the Snowball Edge, a suitcase-sized device for larger transfers. And then there's Step 3, the Snowmobile, which is literally a 45-foot shipping container pulled by a semi-truck to move exabytes of data. You load your data onto these physical devices and mail them straight back to AWS. The big rule of thumb to remember for data migration is this. Use the Snow family whenever transferring data over your local network would just take way too long. Sometimes it is actually much faster to physically drive a hard drive down the highway than to wait on a slow internet connection. Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Optimizing Costs and our ultimate exam study cheat sheet. Cost optimization is absolutely crucial in the cloud. You only pay for what you use, sure, but you gotta be smart about it. Always remember to delete unattached, unused EBS volumes and old snapshots, because if you don't, they just keep charging you. Make sure you use S3 lifecycle policies and intelligent tiering. Opt for the cost-effective GP3 volumes where suitable. Use EFS lifecycle management, and most importantly, proactively monitor everything with Cost Explorer and AWS budgets so you never end up with a surprise bill. Let's bring it all together with a quick study cheat sheet. S3 equals object storage. EBS equals block storage for a single EC2 server. EFS equals shared Linux file storage. FSx for Windows equals Windows file shares. Instant Store equals temporary storage. Storage Gateway equals your hybrid cloud bridge. The Snow family equals large physical data migration. And Glacier Deep Archive, that equals your cheapest long-term storage option. I'll leave you with this final thought. AWS storage is absolutely not one size fits all. The real secret here is choosing the exact right storage service based on your specific access pattern, performance needs, sharing requirements, durability, and of course your budget. So, as your business scales, which storage service will become your ultimate competitive advantage? Something to think about. Keep building, keep learning, and you're going to crush that exam. This is brought to you by Cloud with Shad.